Hello, everyone, and welcome to Build and Deploy Your First Website. This tutorial is going to be covering HTML and CSS to build your first website, and this is for beginners. So if you have some experience with HTML and CSS already, you're more than welcome to stick around, but you may or may not learn something new. My name is Jennifer Pham, and I am the current outreach coordinator for Hacklahoma. If you need anything ever, feel free to reach out to me on the Discord or through email or whatever means of contact that you have with me. And this workshop was put together by MLH. MLH is the Major League Hacking, and they're really here to empower hackers and support hackathons. So they have supported over 65,000 hackers, over 12,000 projects, and have events in 400 cities. So um, very big organization. So today we will be covering the structure and syntax of HTML and CSS, its important elements and properties, and then how to deploy your website. So why does this matter, right? So HTML and CSS are used in every website, and they're really foundational skills that you can use to start, and then once you get more experience, you can, of course, add on to your web page. And then being able to deploy is very important if you want to showcase your work and everything you've done. So as you can see in the table of contents, we're going to start off with an intro to HTML and CSS. To preview what we will basically be building today, you can go to mlhlocal.host/first website. But basically it'll pull up this web page right here. And this is really what we're going to be building. So instead of Ada Lovelace, it'll be your name, things about you, projects, bullet points, pictures, logos that you can link to, stuff like that. So first, we have to make an account on Glitch, right? So if you navigate yourself to glitch.com, and then on the upper right-hand corner, go ahead and click sign in, and then you can sign in however you like, whether it's GitHub or Facebook, or you just want to make an account, however way you want to sign in, go ahead and do so now. And I'll give a couple minutes just to get everyone signed in here. Okay. And once you are signed in, go ahead and navigate yourself to mlhlocal.host/first website remix. Once you've made your way to that link right there, go ahead and scroll down a little bit and then click remix your own. It's that little button with a mic right beside it. Hopefully it's still a mic. But go ahead and click remix your own. I'll give a little bit for everyone to do that as well. All right, and once you've got that done, it should bring you to this new web page with HTML code on it, and you can see these files over here on the left. Go ahead and click Show Live, and another web page should open in a new tab. And that web page should look something like this, right? And this is really basically going to be our workspace and what we're going to be putting together today. So let's go ahead and change it a little bit. In the tab with the code, go ahead and replace your name here on line 4 and what's your name hacker on line 15 with your name. And then once you're done with that, once you've replaced line 4 and line 15, go ahead and click Show Live again in a new tab, or I believe there's an option to do it side by side. But go ahead and click Show Live, and that way you can see the changes that you've just made. So it should look something like this. Um, Obviously, maybe your name isn't Ada Lovelace. It should be your name right here. And then let's build something cool together. Cool. So we have just edited the HTML and saw live changes on the website, right? So let's go ahead and dive into the project to understand what we just did. So on the left, you can see you have a couple of different files, right? And so we're going to go through that briefly. Assets is a folder where you can store all of your images that you want on your page. The readme.md is just classic information about the website. Index.html is the skeleton code for your website. That is something that we will be editing in this workshop. And then media queries .css is a file that makes your website look nice on different devices. MLH has already provided this, so we don't really need to change it. And then style.css is a file that contains the main styling for your website, and we will also be working in this today. So what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the code that structures web pages. It is the skeleton of every web page on the internet. And so generally it follows this format of HTML tag, head, end head, body, and HTML. And in HTML syntax, as I've mentioned the word tag just now, HTML contains an opening tag, its contents, and then usually a closing tag. Some important exceptions are the link and image tags, which are called self-closing tags. So as you can see here, there's the body tag, this first body tag, which is the opening, whatever content you want to put in right here, and then the closing body tag. And this is for the body of the web page. Okay. And just looking specifically into the code, line 1, this doc type HTML just specifies that it's in an HTML file. Line 2 is the opening HTML tag, right? Which is to specify that, hey, this is a website. And then line 3 is the head tag that contains information about your website, and it's not visible to users. On line 5, we have the title of the website, and that's what the users see in the browser tab. Line 6, we have the N head, which closes off the header. Line 7 through 10 is the body of the website, so the contents that you see on the page. And then line 11 closes the HTML element. So currently, what is in our HTML? Go back to the glitch and open up the index.html, right? And you should see something like this, right? The page that we were just on before. Or maybe you haven't navigated over there yet, or navigated off of it. But currently we have this, right? So in index.html on line 5 through 7, the meta tags contain information about how the page should be rendered. Lines 8 through 11, the link tags connect your HTML to other files. And our HTML is connected to two files that we have in the project, the style.css and then the media queries.css. Basically, both are style sheets, and as I've mentioned before, the media is just to make it look nice on other devices. And then in the links tags, it also connects two files that we don't have in our project, which is the fonts from the Google API, which allows us just different fonts. And then the maxcdn.bootstrapcdn.com, which allows us to use an icon library called Awesome Font to add icons to our page. So as you saw on the bottom left, the GitHub, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. Lines 14 through 25, all of the visible content of the website is in between the opening and closing of the body tags. So H1 is the header tag, and these range from H1 to H6, which is basically the different sizes. P is a paragraph tag, any text, paragraph text you put in there. And then lines 23 through 24 make the glitch fish appear in the corner. So that was just a deeper analysis of index.html. Remember, HTML is the skeleton of your web page, right? So some of the text on our page is blue and some of it is bigger than other parts. So how do we style HTML elements? We do this by using CSS. So go ahead and open up the style.css in Glitch. That should be on the left-hand side. And let's go ahead and change some things about that and dive into that. So CSS syntax, right here, as you can see, CSS is a rules. We're seeing a CSS rule set, right? So the selector specifies which elements to style. So as you can see, the selector here is H1, the header one. The property is the characteristic of the element. So the property is like the color, size, font, stuff like that. And then the value is how it should appear, right? So the value of this example is blue, right? The color should be blue. So a value and a property go together. Together are a declaration, and then the selector and its declarations make a rule set, right? So just this portion right here, the color blue is the declaration, and the whole rule set is the H1 and the brackets, everything in between those curly braces. So now let's go ahead and add some stuff onto our website. So let's change the wordings. Let's build something cool together on line 18 to a sentence or two about yourself. So go ahead and just add some nifty thing that you want to learn or want to display on your website, just something about yourself really quickly. And I'll give a few seconds to do that. All right, and once you've changed that, if you didn't get to change it, that's all right. You know, you can always go back and just simply change the text. You know, no big like stressor or anything. But once you've done that, go ahead and add an H2 element that says about on line 21. And this would just be like an about you kind of section. And then add a P element, paragraph element on line 25 and add some information about yourself there. So I'll give a couple of seconds to go ahead and do that. All right, and hopefully everyone's got some content added. So once you've done that, go ahead and press the show live. And just to see your live version, it should look something like this so far, right? Where it's got your name, just a sentence about yourself, an about section, just going into describing yourself a little bit more and like what you've done. So this is generally what it should kind of look like. So let's go ahead and kind of review what we did, right? So H2 is a heading element, right? So every web page should only have one H1 generally, which I believe is the biggest one. Yeah. And it is best practice to think of them as like Roman numerals in an outline used to separate levels of detail. And then P, as I mentioned before, is the paragraph element. And this is this is used to create paragraphs of text on your web page. So let's go ahead and add some more just elements and content in there. So go ahead on line 29, add another H2 element that says projects, right? So this will be our new projects section. And then add a tag, UL, add a UL element on line 33. And we're just going to leave this empty for now. So I'll give a couple of seconds to do that as well. And remember, whenever you're adding these tags, don't forget to put the closing tags, right? So it's the slash and then whatever tag it was. So for the H2 tag, once you've introduced that and then put projects, don't forget to close it off with a slash H2. And then same kind of concept for UL, where you have a slash UL somewhere. So that way it actually closes off and your website doesn't malfunction. All right, so once everyone's added that, go inside the UL element in between UL here on line 33. And we're gonna go ahead and add 3 of the LI elements, right? And then inside the LI elements, add H3 elements. So it should appear something like this, right? Where you have UL, LI, under UL, right? LI, H3, close, LI. And then you can just copy and paste that onto a new line, and then another new line, and then close off UL, right? And I'll explain in a little bit what these tags are. And just to note, Glitch will separate H3 elements onto 3 lines. In this workshop, in this presentation, we've just deleted the blank space between the opening and closing tags of the H3 elements, which is fine. All right, so I hope everyone's gotten to there. So inside the H3 elements, inside your H3 tag, in between H3 and closing H3, go ahead and list a project or accomplishment that you'd like to display on the website. And then below each LI element, add a P tag of text to describe the project. So it should look something like this on the bottom of this slide right here. So as you can see on this slide, we have line 34, right? The difference of engineering. And then after that, there's the paragraph to kind of describe it. And then another accomplishment, paragraph to describe it, another accomplishment, paragraph to describe. So I'll go ahead and allot some time for everyone to do that. And once you have finished, you can go ahead and click on Show Live just to see your live version again. And once you've done that, once you've shown your live, it should look something like this. Now you have your name, sentence, an about section, project section, and then a bullet list of the different projects that you have or accomplishments. So again, it should look something like that. And so let's kind of go back through our code a little bit and kind of dissect it. So the UL tag is an unordered list. And by default, an unordered list element will contain a bulleted list of elements, right? So as we saw on our web page, we have some bullets right there. And then LI is a list item. Inside of UL and OL, which stands for ordered list elements, each item you want to include should be contained within its inside its own LI element. Okay. And HTML elements that are inside other HTML elements are called child elements, right? So the outer element is the parent. So in this case, the LI elements are children of the UL elements and OL elements. As you can see here, UL is on the outside, and then there's another closing UL on the outside on the right side, which makes it the parent, and then inside of it is the list element. And then, of course, your content. So let's go ahead and add in an image. So add an image of yourself to the assets folder in Glitch, or you can use the image there if there is an image there. But go ahead and add it, like just drop in that .jpeg or .png, whatever, into assets, and then click the image, and then click copy URL. I'll give a little bit to do that. So to recap, add image into assets, click on the image, and then copy the URL. Okay, and once you've done that, go ahead and return to index.html. And below the about paragraph, go ahead and add an image tag, an img tag. And inside that tag, add a SRC attribute. And we're going to do SRC equals quotation marks, and then paste that URL in between the quotation marks. And then go ahead and close off that bracket. So it should look something like this on line 29 right here. We got diamond, image, space source equals quotation marks, URL, end quote, and diamond. So I'll give a little bit to do that. So once you've done that, go ahead and click live, and it should be something like this. Now your image may be very, very big, and we can go ahead and fix this later on. But in general, you should have an image on your website right now. So to kind of review the code that we've just done, the image tag just contains an image, and it's a self-closing tag, so you don't need to write the /img after it, right? And then SRC, oh my goodness, SRC is an attribute. So all image elements require the SRC attribute, which tells the browser where the image is stored. So an attribute is just something that you can add to HTML elements that modifies them in some way. And then, of course, self-closing tags, I think, are a little bit explanatory. And so now let's go ahead and add the contact icons at the bottom of the page. So we got GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and then email. So remember when we reviewed the link tags at the beginning of the workshop? Well, look at or around line 11, right? This link tag allows us to use icons from Font Awesome, which is a library of icons, and you can check out fontawesome.com. And the first icon we're going to add is going to be our LinkedIn. So to do this, let's go ahead and go back to index.html, and below the closing UL tag, add a footer element. And inside the footer element, add an A tag. And inside the A tag, add an I tag. So it should be footer, A, I, close I, close A, close footer. On line 50, it looks like is where they have it. So I'll go ahead and give a little bit to do that. All right, and once we've got that done, go ahead and add an href attribute inside the opening A tag and set it equal to the URL of your LinkedIn profile. Right, so that would look something like line 51 right here on the bottom of the slide, where you got a href equals your LinkedIn, and then after that, add target equals quote underscore blank end quote inside the a tag as well. And then you would add the following code, class equals fa, that whole thing in the I tag. And it's also important to note that your code doesn't need to be separated in this way. There's just new lines added for readability. But really, as long as you have the content of line 51 and 52 in the right places, you should be good. So I'll go ahead and give a little bit to do that. And once you've done that, go ahead and click on live, show live again, just to see the changes that you've made. And as long as you've copied everything correctly in the right places as well, you should see a LinkedIn logo on the bottom left as depicted here. So something like that. And just in case, I'll go back to the previous slide for anyone who needs to catch up a little bit. I know I talk kind of fast sometimes. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so let's kind of review a little bit here of what we just added, as usual. So A is an anchor element, and these are used to create links on your page. I is an element with several uses, right? And in this case, it's to add icons to our website. Href is an attribute that contains the URL an A element should link to. All right, target is also an attribute that you can use to open links in a new tab. Class is an attribute that is used to group elements. When writing CSS, you can specify or you can apply specific styles to all elements that you give the same class. And aria dash hidden is another attribute that tells you a screen user or a screen reader to ignore an element. All right, so now we're going to be doing some italicizing and bolding, and we can either use EM or strong. And that is kind of what it looks like right there. As you can see, there's some italics on towards the bottom, and I think towards the last sentence, yeah, Ada is bolded. So go ahead and navigate your way back to index.html. Add the opening and closing EM tags around something that you want to italicize. And then the same kind of thing for bolding. So add strong around words that you want to bold. So as you can see towards the bottom here, we got EM right here between difference and analytical engines, and then bolding around ADA. So go ahead and do that. And once you've done that, go ahead and click live just to see the changes that we've made. We always want to check in and make sure it hasn't crashed or anything. And it should look something like this. Your whole webpage should look something like this. Uh, and so, whoops. Now, we've added a lot of the content that we've wanted. So let's go ahead and start styling our website and like rearranging things essentially. So going into some code here. Um, in the style.css on line 1, we have body is a CSS selector, right? So the code from lines 1 through 4 will be applied to the entire body of our index.html, wherever the body tag is. And then line 2 is the font family, which specifies the font. So this code says News Open Sans for all the text that's in the body. Um, and the browser doesn't know Open Sans. If the browser doesn't know Open Sans, use Helvetica, Arial, or sans serif. On line 3, we have margin, which means how much space should be around the element. Um, The This means to put 3% margins around all sides of the body. Percent is one way to specify the size of the elements, and we'll learn a little bit more about this in a few slides. On line 6, we have another H1 CSS selector, and this means to apply all the styles, whatever modifications to the H1 elements of the website. Then color on line 7 is a CSS property. And again, a property is something about an element that we can use or that we can style itself. So line 7 says to make all of the text of all the H1 elements Dodger blue, which is a color that's built into CSS. So CSS units in this project, there are many different CSS sizing units. There are the ones, and these are the ones that are used in this project. So we have pixels, which is px, the absolute sizing of elements. So for example, h1, h2, h3, and p elements are sized with pixels in the web page. Percentages, as we've just seen, is relative sizing of elements. Viewport width unit, VW, is also a relative sizing of elements. VW is 1% of the width of the viewport, which is the part of the browser that contains the web page. And then we also have viewport height units, which is essentially the same thing except for the height. So let's go ahead and actually do some modifications here. So let's go and open up style.css. And we're going to add an H2 CSS rule set below the H1 CSS rule set that we did earlier. Or it may have already been done. But inside the CSS rule set, go ahead and change the color of the H2 elements to anything you want. And you can check out all the colors at mlhlocal.host/CSS colors and choose whichever one for your liking. So I'll go ahead and give a couple seconds to do that. And then, of course, for those of you who are already done, you can always go ahead and click on Show Live just to see the changes that you've made. And hopefully it should be up. So it should look something like this, where as you can see the about, since about and project, since it is H2 elements, they are now dim gray. That's what we did in the slides. You don't have to do dim gray. You can do a pink or red, whatever is to your liking. So let's kind of go over tag selectors. So in style.css, these styles are applied to all elements inside of the body element, which is the whole web page, right? So tag selectors in general are CSS selectors that style all elements within a certain tag. Right, so let's go ahead and um, add some more structure to the website. So Ada's website has the About section next to the Project section. So let's go ahead and do the same thing to ours, the one we're working on right now. So really just shifting everything over to be side by side. Going back to the index.html, we're going to add a section element. Um, Add the opening section tag above H2 that says about, and then close the section tag right before footer. So essentially, it should be on line 21. Um, and this is all relative, but on line 21, or if you've added some extra lines for readability, it should just be before the H2 tag for your about. And then the closing section tag should be at around line 50, which is right before the headers or footer tag starts. So I'll give a few seconds to do that as well. So give the section tag a class attribute, and we will put the value of it as main, right? And this will allow us to style the section a little bit later. But essentially, go ahead and do, in the section tag, go ahead and do class equals quote main end quote. And once you've done that, let's go ahead and add two div elements. Put one around the about section and add the other one um, around the project section. And just for reference or for context, we've already collapsed some of the paragraph elements for readability. Just so, as you can see on like the left or bottom right, that kind of emoji, that is collapsed. Just so we can all see it. But yeah, the div should be right after section um, on line like 22 on this left right here. And then it should also be on line 34 right before the header 2 tag of projects. And then, of course, excuse me, the closing div on line 32, and then the closing div on line 53. I'm gonna give a couple minutes here just because I know it's starting to get a lot. So just to make sure everyone has time to navigate through their code. And then once you've done that, you can go ahead and click on live. Nothing has really changed yet. We just added section and div so that way we are able to group it together and like style it later on. And these two tags are not visible for on the web page. All right, so hopefully everyone's done with that. And as I've said earlier, your web page should remain the same. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit more into this. So in style.css, these styles are applied to all elements that have the logo class. Class selectors are more specific than tag selectors, so they will override tag selectors. So class selectors in CSS are selectors that style all elements within a certain class. So think of like tag selectors as like just a variable, and class selectors are the whole class. All right, so a small example of that on the bottom there. So let's go ahead and kind of modify this a little bit more in our code. So go ahead and go back to style.css. And we're going to add a CSS rule set that will style the main class. And we're going to add the following code inside of that rule set. And I would go ahead and add this code specifically. So in style.css on line 14, you should have .main curly brace, display, flex, justify content, space around, height 70 VH, or yeah, VH, and curly braces. So I'll give a little bit to do that. Once everyone has done that, we're going to just review this code a little bit just for further information. In 3, 2, 1. Cool. So display is a CSS property that determines how an element should take up space on the page. Justify content is a CSS property that tells the browser how much space should be between the elements that are on the same line. Flex is a possible value for each display property. Usually each HTML element is displayed on its own line. When using flex, each element squeezes next to the next one, or next to the one before it. And then space around is a value for the justify content property that puts equal space around all of the elements. Height is another CSS property that specifies how tall an element should be. And then 70 VH is 70 VH means like 70% of how tall the user's browser's window is going to be. So this essentially means make the main section of this website 70% as tall as the user's browser. So that's how it like adjusts whenever you like minimize your browser, like make it smaller or bigger, like wider, thinner, etc. That's how it re-renders. So now once you've done that, go ahead and click on live just to see all the changes, and you should see that your projects are on the right side now. And we are about to set the dimensions of the left and right sections next. So going back to index.html, we're going to add the class left to the div around about section, right? So to classify the left side of the web page. And then we're going to add the class right to the div around projects section. And this just allows for easier styling. So according to the slides, at least what we're on is on line 22. In that div, it'll be class equals left, and that's for the about section. And then on line 34, class equals right, and that'll be for the project section. So I'll give a couple seconds to do that before we move on. Okay, and then we're going to go back to style.css. And we're going to add a rule set to style elements with left or right. So let's go ahead and do dot left, comma, dot right curly braces. And then we're going to set the width property of the elements with the class left or right to 46 VW. So essentially, we're just going to be copying this code that's shown right here into your style.css on glitch. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is also resize that image that we put in. So we're going to add a CSS rule set to the image tag. Set the height of your image to 40 VH and then the width to auto. And this line of code will create space around your image. And colon 3 VH0. Now, this to note, this will make the glitch fish, that little icon of the fish, very big. You can go ahead and delete the fish if you want. But essentially, we're just going to be copying this code right here into the .css. And once you have that done, go ahead and hit live, show live, and just check out your web page real quick. Make sure everything's all good there. I'll give a couple more seconds. It should look something like this after you've hit live. As you can see, we've got things spread out now on the left and right. Our image is a normal size. And then the logo is also like in place as well. So there are a lot of different properties, right? CSS properties. And so here are some that we've used so far. So we've got display, right? Is used to position elements. And values used in this project include flex, right? To be flexible. Height and width. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then color, of course, to set the color of something. Now, CSS colors. There are many ways to specify colors in CSS. Two ways that we are doing so in this project are named colors, like blue and red. And a fun website to visit that is commutercreative.com. Colors.commutercreative.com. And then hexadecimals. Those are 6-character color codes, such as hashtag 123ABC. Those kind of color pickers that you see on Google. All right, and just like that, you have now deployed your first website where anyone on the internet can find you and your work. So in the next section, we'll cover some optional customizations that you can do now, or you can do whenever you want. And so if you want to, you can dip. These are all optional, but still good information. So use the CSS below to change the color of the font awesome contact icons that you added at the bottom of your page. And add some more icons that link to your Twitter, your GitHub, Instagram, whatever you like. All right. And then add an A tag around the H3 elements that list your projects. Set the href attributes to the URL where your project is stored, right? So basically linking your projects to your GitHub, any other place online. Maybe you have a YouTube channel. I don't know. That's cool if you do them. And then another customization is you can also visit fonts.google.com and learn how to add fonts to your webpage, right? So change the fonts of your name, the header, your paragraphs, whatever you want. There is absolutely no limit. And yeah, so just to recap really quickly, HTML is the skeleton of every website. CSS styles the HTML elements. And in deploying your website, we have deployed your website and made it available for others to see by navigating to your web address. So yeah, there are some next steps. I don't think we have much time for it, but you can save that website and later on do some more research. You can add some fonts. So like I said earlier, you can check out fonts.google.com, add some more fonts, change some stuff. And then you can also make a custom domain, right? So you can purchase a domain and then set it up to redirect to your site. Um, and yeah, so that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope that was really informative. I hope that really helps on any kind of personal project you're doing, or just, if you wanted to learn some more um, applicable skill sets. There you go. So, thank you guys for attending this workshop. This has been Build and Deploy Your First Website with Jennifer Pham. Hello. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good time at Hacklahoma. Definitely good luck on your projects and everything. And even if you don't finish, go ahead and submit it. I mean, it doesn't ever hurt. It doesn't hurt to submit. But yeah, if you have any other questions, I will be here on the Discord. So go ahead and at me on the Discord, and I should respond. Um, if I don't get to you in a timely fashion, you can always at me again or DM me. um, and if you want access to these slides, go ahead and let me know as well. Either Discord me, DM me, email me, and I can get those slides to you. Just in case you wanted to go back and look and whatnot. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good time at Hacklahoma. And if you need anything, just feel free to reach out to me or um, any of the other Hacklahoma members, and we'd be happy to help you. All right, good luck, guys.